Hi, welcome to Manas Shil YouTube channel. Before we start, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Let's start the video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I'll link it in the description box, or you can click here. Tensura Volume 19. Chapter 4. The Gathering of the Giants. The True Hero. As soon as the exchange was over, Vega moved. He chose to use his greatly increased strength and speed to confront Hinata head-on. Vega's stiff arm destroyed an object with a shockwave, even though it had not been touched. The same went for his kicks. His entire body had become an incarnation of destruction that surpassed that of strategic weapons, and he was causing extraordinary damage to those around him. If it weren't for the material area, the capital would have been reduced to ashes in a matter of minutes. Exposed to such a tyranny, Hinata would normally have been in great trouble. In fact, Hinata's existence value had increased significantly, but Vega's rate of increase was even greater. The difference was more than tenfold, and he even possessed the ultimate skill. Even though Granbell had awakened her as a hero, Vega was still too dangerous for Hinata. And yet, Hinata was unfazed. It's strange. I'm not scared at all. And for some reason, I can read the flow of attacks. It was more accurate than the predict future attack that Rimuru had mastered, and could now be called future prediction. It was no wonder, then, that Hinata's current skill was confirmed. Unique skill mathematician has evolved into ultimate skill Fate King, Fortuna successful. With the evolution of Hinata herself, she had reached the ultimate realm. This Fate King Fortuna included the abilities Thought Acceleration, Universal Perception, Divine, Haki, Space-Time Manipulation, Multidimensional Barrier, All of Creation, Computational Domain, and Virtual World. By making full use of these powers, Hinata was able to embody an almost perfect future prediction. It was only through this power that Hinata was able to master Granbell's sword technique True Slash. Hinata had lost her unique skill Usurper, but because she had made Fate King Fortuna her own with such talent, she did not need it. Hinata was able to see through all of Vega's tricky attacks, including altering himself and branching his arms. Even when Vega was several times faster than her, Hinata was able to toss him around with ease. Damn it, you're just jumping around. No matter how terrible Vega's shockwaves were, they wouldn't do much damage to Hinata if it didn't hit her directly, especially now that she was able to turn into a full spiritual life form as a hero. Of course, if it was Vega, his entire body was hardened with mythical grade armor, he might be able to kill Hinata with just one blow. However, Hinata now had truth in her hands. Until now, it would have been difficult for her to even take him on seriously, considering the difference in weapon performance, but with truth, there was no need to worry about that. Combined with Hinata's future prediction calculation, it was possible to parry Vega's attacks head-on. Although the difference in strength was too great, and there was a need to adjust the angle, it was an easy task, given Hinata's skill level. You're not going to hit me. Damn it. However, even you don't have the means to reach me. Vega shouted, unwilling to admit defeat, but he still had a point. But there was no need for Hinata to be ashamed of that. After all, that's what Tensura was there for. It's very helpful to have a good vanguard. I'm ready. Well then, please go ahead. Yes. There's no need for repentance, you can go straight to purgatory. Vega's survival instincts told him that he was in trouble. Don't screw with me. We wait. Wait for. But Tensura did not listen to Vega's pleas for his life. White Flare. Tensura had created the ultimate magic interpersonal magic with her ultimate skill Death King Belial, that is, the White Flare. It consumed life and wreaked death. There was no escape for those who had been targeted by it. Their bodies would be consumed by the white flames, and they would be cast into hell. It was a terrible magic that caused no damage to the surrounding area, but its power and heat level surpassed that of nuclear magic. Although this terrifying magic caused no damage to the surroundings, the power, that is, the amount of heat, easily surpassed that of nuclear magic. There was nothing he could do about it. Vega was burned to the ground in an instant. But Tensura's expression was dark. The worst. Apparently, it seems that I've failed. She muttered gravely. Overhearing this, Hinata asked. What do you mean by that? I was unable to reap that full soul. Perhaps if it were anyone else, but my eyes can't be deceived. When Vega died, Tensura took in a massive amount of soul. However, there was no scent on it that could be attributed to Vega. Hinata thought to herself. That magic was of a terrible nature. Even I think it would be difficult to withstand. Would I be able to escape it? If it were her, she would definitely be defeated the moment the spell was activated. Hinata admitted this, but then retracted her argument when she remembered Vega's attitude. Or rather, it's likely, I'm almost certain that they've escaped. You think so too? Yes. Because that guy seemed like he was acting. Yeah. The begging for his life wasn't as desperate or sneaky as it should have been. Tensura had heard a lot about Vega's despicable behavior from Moss. He was a cowardly bastard who would immediately pull the trigger if he knew he was at a disadvantage. The fact that such a man did not stop looking down on her until the end assured her that he did not think he would die. It's the worst. I'm so embarrassed, I don't think I can face Rimuru-sama. Tensura was writhing in shame over her mistake. And so was Hinata. I can just see Rimuru's face, so happy to hear my story. Just great, that guy, he's always so delighted when I fail. She couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm always right with an expression like that. Rimuru was very pleased when Hinata was in trouble. She hated him for that, but at the same time, she was pleased that he was happy whenever she relied on him. Hinata had mixed feelings about that. Moss, who was listening to the conversation of these women, thought in silence, as if he were air. If I do it, I'll be tormented for 300 years or so. That's what he was thinking. To say that he had let the enemy escape, he was too scared to report it. However, Moss was not foolish enough to point out his superior's mistake here. He knew from the bottom of his heart that if he did such a thing, he would be blamed for not keeping a watchful eye on things. If other executives blame me, Tensura-sama will be in trouble. For the time being, Moss was depressed, expecting that his boss would be in a bad mood. At the very least, he secretly hoped that he would not be the one to bear the brunt of it. Rudra leisurely takes off his emperor's coat and left it in Velgren's hands. Now wearing a shirt, he looked at Feldway. Come, diva. Rudra's favorite sword from his hero days answered his call. It was a sacred sword, given to Rudra by his friend and mentor, Veldanava. Its grade was the highest of all mythical grade swords. The Asura and the Diva were a pair of swords that could be boasted as most powerful swords ever made. While the Asura, which was given to Gi and later to Milim, was a long, curved, single-edged sword, the Diva was a normal-size, double-edged sword. Because of its ease of use, it was a perfect match for Rudra. Feldway narrowed his eyes. That sword is Veldanava-sama's. That's right. I got it from him. That's unforgivable. It's too valuable to be wasted on a mere mortal. What do I care? Rudra walked towards Feldway. Velgren watched anxiously, but did not wish to interfere. She believed in Rudra. So then, you're still a coward, huh? You're the type of person who would never use all your strength to decide between two people. What does that matter? The leader must outlive everyone else. You're well aware of that, aren't you? Well, I suppose. But if that's the reason why you missed the chance to win a battle you could have won, it's not worth it, is it? What are you? I'm grateful. If you hadn't relied on the Justice King Michael and fought Gryan on your own, she would have been injured much worse. However, I won't forgive you for hurting her. Prepare yourself. By the time he finished, Rudra was in close proximity to Feldway. He casually swung his sword. Feldway caught it with his own. The sword, just like with Rudra and Gi, was given to Feldway by Veldanava. It was a masterpiece named the Arc. The grade of the swords was the same. The rest of the battle would be decided by skill level. The ground was shattered by the footsteps, and even the air was broken by the impact of running through the sky. The impact of the swords clashing was so great that the smell of burning air filled the surroundings. It's tremendous. Hinata muttered, who was now one of the spectators. Hinata's mentor, Granbell, respected Rudra as a master, and his power was real. Despite the fact that he was inhabiting the fragile body of Masayuki, his power was equal to that of Feldway's. No, it was more than that. After several clashes, Feldway was the one who was outmatched. You're weak, bastard. Don't you dare make a fool of me, Rudra. That's what happens when you rely too much on your skills. I knew you were trying to copy me, but you can't be that naive. Rudra's sword flicked Feldway's sword away. There was an overwhelming difference in ability. The ultimate skill Justice King Michael is a complete defense in the truest sense of the word. I had been using it for a long time, so I'm sure of it. However, while it's active, you can't take any offensive measures, right? No magic, no other powers, no fighting spirit, or you can't even use magic to deflect attacks. However, there was a loophole. Although it was impossible to blow off attacks with things like fighting or the overwhelming power, Haki was effective. Besides, he could attack with handheld weapons without a problem, though that was the main concern. Rudra was proficient in this. He was so skilled that he was able to release the castle guard only at the moment of attack and increase the power through his fighting aura. You knew that, so you misunderstood that you were in a one-sided position, but it was a strategy that was possible because you were me. If you're not the best with a sword, you'll easily lose your means of attack. His words hit the nail on the head. Feldway knew this because he had been a member of Rudra's inner circle. Therefore, when he acquired the ultimate skill just as King Michael, he tried to recreate that power, but it was not so easy. It was not a skill that Rudra had learned overnight, but rather a method of combat that he had learned over and over again while being beaten down by his master, Feldway. That's why it was a great achievement to even be able to imitate him. Besides, losing a sword fight did not mean that the castle guard had been broken. Feldway was still intact, and he had not lost his overall advantage. Yes, I'll admit to your point. However, don't think you've won. Feldway spoke arrogantly. He was so confident in his own defense that he believed he would never be defeated. However, Rudra replied to Feldway, as if to ridicule him. You really think you can beat me, don't you? Do you have any idea how many years I spent with Feldway after he entrusted me with Justice King Michael? What do you mean? I'm asking you if you really think that I didn't come up with a way to attack it. You fool. Do you think there's any way to defeat the most powerful of all angelic, no, ultimate skills? You can't bluff your way through me. Even so, Rudra only snickered. Then he narrowed his eyes and thrust his sword at Feldway. I'll tell you something. What I received was the Covenant King Uriel. What do you think its characteristics were? It's just a power for management purposes. Feldway used the Covenant King Uriel to figure out how to create as many powers. Upon being asked by Rudra, Feldway answered. It was the correct answer, but it did not express the whole truth. There's more to it than that. As you may know, the Covenant King Uriel also had the ability to listen to the voices of the people. Or rather, the voices of those connected to Feldway. It could be a wish for hope, a prayer for salvation, or any number of other desires, but it didn't lose its power when I had it. So what do you mean? See the resemblance with the Justice King Michael you're using now. As long as there was loyalty to its owner, the castle guard was invincible. In other words, the Covenant King Uriel and the Justice King Michael were similar in the sense that they listened to the voices of those who were connected to them. By the way, Covenant King Uriel also has an absolute defense, which is an application of the infinite prison and can be broken at the critical moment. I'm proud to say that the means of attack I devised by using it was quite impressive. Rudra grinned after saying this. He lightly swung the diva in his hand, making its blade glow with light. You can see it, can't you? Upon seeing the light, Feldway's face changed color. He realized at a glance that it had the same properties as the castle guard he wore. The more people who believe in me, the more power I have. How many of your followers do you have? I've got over 1 billion people counting on me. Rudra's words were true. The total number of Feldway's followers was less than 1 million. The number of those who believed in Feldway had been greatly reduced and was now believed to be less than 300,000. On the other hand, the number of those who believed in Rudra reached 800 million among the subjects of the empire alone. Here in the royal capital of Ingratia alone, millions of people had placed their hope in Rudra. Rather, it was for Masayuki, but since they were the same person, it was accepted without any issues. There was a huge gap between Rudra and Feldway in regards to the absolute number of supporters they had. Feldway's face twisted in frustration as he realized this. This is a deadly blow that will unleash the united will of those who believe in me. Absolute severance. Feldway could sense the danger. Quite screwing around. How can you use the power of the Covenant King Uriel? It's still missing. When Feldway died, the Covenant King Uriel was supposed to be lost. And yet, Rudra was using it as if it were only natural. It was an unacceptable situation. You're not paying enough attention. For that matter, that grand guy was using Hulk King cereal too. Rudra told him in utter exasperation. Masayuki's King of Heroes could even recreate skills that had disappeared. Rudra smiles broadly, as if it didn't matter what he told them. You really don't like these tactics, do you? Velgrin was also exasperated, but more than that, she was in love with Rudra's bravery, and in the end, no one other than Rudra's sister Lucia had ever cautioned him. This was a scene that had been repeated in the past, and it was being recreated precisely now. If so, then you. That's right. I can use the Justice King Michael right now, but the one who's going to end you here is the Covenant King Uriel, who boasts the strongest attack power. Gee. Feldway was on full alert, mobilizing not only the castle guard, but also all of his barriers in a defensive posture. And immediately after that. I've been waiting. Let's see how long you can hold out. At Rudra's voice, the ultimate blow was unleashed. It's not going to work, Rudra, ah. Star King Dragon Flash, Nova Break. The clash was instantaneous. A terrifying rampage of destruction erupted on the spot. The material area meant nothing. Even though Velgrin had contained the main shockwave and sent it skyward, it was still shattered in the aftermath. This was not the kind of power that could be generated by mere swordplay, but this was what made Rudra. Irrational strength, that was the power of the hero of the beginning who could compete with Guy. And of course, it was Feldway who fell. Well, that's a fair result. Rudra smiled refreshingly and raised his right hand to the sky. It was, without a doubt, a declaration of victory. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy it.